So today we welcome Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis. He represents Precinct 1, which covers parts of central, north, and south Houston where over 1 million residents live. He has served the district since 2017 and has deep ties to Houston. To give you an idea, Precinct 1 houses several Houston landmarks, including Hobby and Bush Airport, the Toyota Center, the University of Houston downtown and main campus, as well as University of St. Thomas and Rice University. That just gives you an idea of the reach and scope of Precinct 1. So to discuss issues facing his precinct, we welcome County Commissioner Rodney Ellis to Hello Houston. Hello there, Commissioner.
Hello, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be with all three of you. I like the new digs.
Thank you.
Quite uplifting.
Yeah.
If you're listening right now or watching us on YouTube and you have questions for the Commissioner, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Before we get into all of the issues we have for you and talking about that, obviously we were talking about school vouchers. Any thoughts, feelings on that as it moves through the State House?
I'm a big supporter of public education.
Yes, sir.
And in my mind, I just don't see any way putting $1 billion into vouchers when the state has severely underfunded public education for so long helps. Look, I was in the legislature a long time, 26, approaching 27 years. It's always a challenge, but there's nothing more fundamental, nothing more important that you can do as a state legislator or the governor than fund education.
Well, sir, can you explain in a short sentence or two, why is this the governor's pet project? Why does he want this so badly?
I think it's unfortunate, but the grand old party has been overtaken by a small sliver of people who are very loud, very active, and have supporters who are very wealthy. And it's unfortunate, but it's really turning their backs on public education.
So you think it's just making the rich richer?
It's going to make the rich richer, and you get a few people, maybe some churches or whoever who operate some of these private schools who can benefit from it. Right. But it's really want the vast majority of people. Look, big problem in Texas is we have over 1,000 school districts. A state of 30 million people, over 1,000 school districts. So the big issue, there's always this issue of funding, the inequality there is because the state leaves it on locals to do it. And obviously, if you live in an area that just has downtown in it, and you get the tax revenue from that, and that's all you have, you're in pretty good shape. But if you're in a large metropolitan area like Houston, 2.2 million people, it's a real challenge. In Harris County alone, we got 20.
I remember when the lottery money was promised to go to education. That never happened.
It wouldn't fund it. Well, eventually they did earmark it for education.
Yeah.
But that money that comes from people who gamble, I'm pretty good with numbers. So I've never bought a lottery ticket. For those who do it, fine.
You don't like
it
the
wouldn't
odds?
keep the public. I can't remember when I was in the legislature. It was a great line. I think all that money comes from the lottery, wouldn't fund public education in Texas clearly for a month. It may have been a week. Just Google it. AI will let you know. But there's always, there's no short way to get around it. It takes money to run government.
Sure.
Yeah.
It takes money to run schools. The tax rates you pay in Harris County to the schools is higher than anyone in any other entity that's funded here. But it is important. All my kids came out of public schools. Thank God. The last one's about to come out of college. They don't come off the payroll. But if you want to send your kids to a private school, pay for it.
Well, I think Harris County has some of the best public schools, probably in the state, if not the nation.
The biggest one's a problem, HIC, which is the one that has the bulk of the problems. What they want to do is cherry pick when you go out with these vouchers. In the country, I'd say to you probably New Jersey. Not because I had a kid from my first marriage, just left a home, in fact, who ended up coming out, but New Jersey does a very good job of funding its public schools. It's always a challenge in the urban areas in Newark. She was in Bergen County. But look, we always say that. Everywhere I've served, and you know my story, on city council, state legislature, and that county, everywhere I've served, everybody says what they have is the model for the nation. And sometimes I say, what is this? Where does the hyperbole come from? Everybody's model for the nation. You got to measure it somewhat. So if you go Google, this AI stuff is amazing.
It's amazing.
You gotta analyze it, but if you go just pull AI, who has the best public schools in America? I don't think that Texas is going to pop up. Now, if you're in Plano, if you're in a wealthy district, if you're in an urban area, it's hard for downtown Houston, the highest property we have, to just fund it all. But you go carve them up in these areas where you have a lot of wealth and you do well.
Yeah, I do want to hold elected officials accountable, and I want clarity on this. You never bought a raffle. You never bought a lottery ticket.
I never
when it
bought
was
one when Texas passed it. And the reason was I carried the bill for
a couple
for
$billion
game day.
in that offering
never
for
did that.
$1.
Here are the odds. You think about it. 30 million people, and you can buy them. You can be out of state and buy them now.
Yeah. But
Just the
somebody
odds of
would-
winning.
Well, that's
I'm
not
glad
what we
they
have
do
you
it.
here
We want the
for.
money, but I'm just saying, if you buy lottery tickets, you're not very good at math.
Well, since you can't vote on the vouchers,
You might be damn lucky, but you're not good at math.
and you're not going to buy a lottery ticket, we're going to stick you to the issues that you deal with,
I
and
deal with
also to bring in our folks who are listening who have questions for you. The number here is 713-440-8870. On the line, we have Alon with us. Alon, what's on your mind today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rodney Ellis, thank you.
Good morning.
I'm a cyclist in the 70s now, but I had a bicycle over all the streets in Harris County, and I'm about two-thirds of the way there, three-quarters of those inside Houston. Back in the 1990s, I had a head-on collision with a drunk driver. And our combined velocity was about freeway speeds, but I had bought a bicycle helmet 2 weeks before that. Now, my concerns about bicycle safety, dogs running loose, cars driving above the speed limit are all things that intimidate cyclists. But my number one is that the Public Works is not keeping the cracks, the crevices between lanes. They can catch a wheel and throw the cyclist down right when they're riding in traffic.
Alon, thank you for your thoughts, comments on this. If you have been listening to our show, Hello Houston, we've been talking a lot about bike safety and the bike lanes and what's going on there. You, as I understand, are a very strong proponent of bike lanes and what's going on.
I am. I love cycling. First, I tell you, Alon, don't cycle in traffic, by the way, and get a good helmet. But on the broader issue that I know you want to talk about, I'm very proud of the fact that as a county commissioner, I've invested unprecedented county resources on city streets. In fact, here at the University of Houston, I'm sure you enjoy what we did with your county dollars on Cullen. That was $15 million. I called it the University Corridor Project. $15 million for Texas Southern, $15 million for TSU, for Texas Southern and U of H. I had no idea it would cost over $15 million to just do from the freeway to the bayou on Cullen. And at TSU, it was more than a miracle mile. I don't think it was quite a mile to go from Scott to, I think, Tier-Wester because of the infrastructure. The city had ignored it for decades. Maybe it hadn't been done since I was on city council. Not that I did it. That would have been Mayor Cathy Whitmire. Or maybe when Lee Brown or Bob Lanier was in, maybe they redid it. But we narrowed Cullen from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. This is a university.
So I'm a little confused. So the county and the city both cover sort of the same areas, right? So who's in charge of roads? Who's in charge of bike
The city is in
lanes?
charge of roads in the city limits. The county builds the roads in unincorporated. Here's an interesting point. 5 million people, 4.9 in Harris County. There are more people in unincorporated Harris County than there are in the city of Houston.
By a few, yes, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
by a few. But so the largest city would be unincorporated something, Harris County. But I made the decision that I would invest in infrastructure in the city of Houston because the city of Houston didn't do it, it didn't have the money to do it. I haven't made it all up, but it probably approached $100 million. Some of it off-road, some of it on-road. I'm into cycling for health and fitness. It's not just a leisure thing for folks on the weekends. There are people, believe it or not, in this city who can't afford a car. And the way they get to work is on a bicycle. Unfortunately, some of them are now on these scooters as well. Hope my kids are not doing it. But look, I made that decision to do it. I'm proud that I did it. I was disappointed, before you asked, that after investing unprecedented resources in the city, which is not my job, I'm not a city council member now.
So why did you put the money in the city when you didn't have to?
I did it because I try to pick projects that are broad-based. No matter where you live, you probably interact with this university corridor, as I referred to it at some point. And that's certainly what people saying, well, why don't you do my neighbor? I can't do them all. Can't help everybody. But I'd never take a position, I'm not going to help anybody because I can't help everybody. So I made the decision. We did some surveys, but I said, look, TSU, University of Houston, if you live unincorporated, if you live in Galveston County, you interact with this area. So what can we do to make it better? Not just for road safety for people on bicycles, but for students and faculty who are here. And we wanted to make Cullen the gateway. That's the front door to the University of Houston. And we wanted to make Cleburne and the other side, Blodgett, front doors to Texas Southern University. So we did it.
I want to take you
about $38 million that we spent on those two.
I'm going to take you out of that neighborhood over to what gets a lot of attention is what's happening on Austin Street and the tearing up of the bike lanes. And I'm just curious, your understanding of the concept, I don't even want to say the logic, but the idea behind these are already there. And there's talking about saving money, but they're ripping up something that's there. Is there
$2 million, that was all county money. The city under Mayor Niece Parker did a very creative thing. They decided to pave these bayous. That's really green space that makes our city attractive for people who want to come here, want to encourage convention visitors or whatever. City put up on that bond issue, I don't know, maybe $100 million. Private sector put in maybe about $140 million. When I became a county commissioner, I closed the gap. They were about $9 million short, so I put the last $9 million in with county money to go and do that. But you want to connect these bayous. They all run the same direction. They go to the Gulf of Mexico. They keep us from flooding.
They do.
But when it's not raining, that really is natural green space. That's those linear parks let us compete with Central Park in other places. But you want to connect them. Austin Street was the first connection where you could connect Buffalo Bayou, somewhat circuitous under Mayor Turner. You had neighborhoods that raised a bit of cane. So it's circuitous, but you can go down Austin and LaBranch, and you can get from Brays Bayou. You got to run up by the University of Houston, up to Bayou a bit. You can connect Buffalo Bayou and Brays Bayou. So that's why we did Austin. Spent $2 million. It's really to connect those two.
So jump me quickly ahead then. It's been cited as the repair is so expensive and that they're not as safe as we thought and all of that, and that's why they're tearing them out. Is that your understanding of what's happening?
I never got a call. It would be nice if someone gave you $2 million. I did the street because it was part of their bike plan, not my bike plan. I was in the state senate. I was in the biking, but I had nothing to do with the plan. So the city came to me and said, will you do this? In fact, what I did was commit $10 million. I think the city of Houston said in their bike plan of Mayor Turner they were going to spend about $1 million a year, $1.1 million a year for 4 years for the bike safety plan. It was just a handshake. We had some bike summit, and they'd given the city an F, gave the county a C. We all unincorporated. That's what we're responsible for. So I said to Mayor Turner, I said, let's do a handshake. I'll put up $10 million. Use it or lose it in 1 year. And you take your $1.1 million over the next 5 years, spend it all in Precinct 1. That didn't quite happen, but when I see him on the other side, I'm going to still complain about it. But this $2 million for Austin Street was part of that. And we did designs to go and connect several other bayous. I think trying to get to Sims Bayou on the south side and trying to connect Halls and Greens on the other side. So, look, but I never got a call. But, look, if there were safety issues, what we did was put Austin on the county's road log. The city agreed in a local agreement. We took it to do the bike lanes, and I had to do them. That took a year, maintained it for a year, and then, okay, madam, sir, it's yours. We gave it back. So if there were maintenance issues, it was their responsibility after the 1 year that I maintained it. I did write a letter, or at least I approached the city, my staff did, and said, look, I'll go and fix it up. It's time to spruce it up. But you need to send me something in writing that you won't take it up, because there were rumors. Here's what I'm going to, at least for me. It ought to be a county policy, because let's not waste the public's money. If one governmental entity is going to do something for another governmental entity, there ought to be an agreement. If you're going to change it, give me my money back. If you change it, administration, if you wake up one day and decide you were for Vision Zero, you know what that is, and then you pass an ordinance for Vision Zero and then new administration, you're no longer for Vision Zero.
Yeah.
You don't see the value of it, whatever reason. Just give the money back to any governmental entity that gives you money. If we take money from the federal government, say we're going to do one thing, and we change our mind, you got to give it back. So at least for Precinct 1, if I ever spend any more money that I control in the city of Houston, there have to be an agreement.
Well, it sounds to me like you're saying that any money that was left there to maintain Austin Street somehow disappeared.
No, there was no money to maintain it.
Well, that's
here's
part of the problem,
agreement.
isn't it?
The agreement was I would put it in. It took me a year to put it in, design, go through all that, put it there. And then for 1 year, I would maintain it. And then after that year, Austin's been completed for several years. After that year is over with, it goes back to the city. So it was their responsibility to maintain it. But I would have volunteered to put up a modest amount. You know, depends on what it would cost. But yeah, after any street needs repairs. But look, on the broader issue, here's the real challenge there. The city's broke. We all know that. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen under this mayor. It didn't happen under the previous mayor. It was over a series of things, including challenges from our state partners who put a cap on our ability to bring in revenue, but they can't cap our ability to grow because people keep coming. And then they put in requirements on certain areas, law enforcement, where you could never reduce the budget. And then the city imposed a stricter revenue cap on itself under Mayor Bill White, probably for good cause. But so look, it doesn't help when you end up fighting in a sandbox, including, in case you decide to ask about it, that bill involving the toll road in Austin.
Oh, we might
Right,
get
and
to
we'll
that
get to
in a
that.
little bit.
But it doesn't help for intergovernmental relations
Right.
when you need one another.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we're speaking with County Commissioner Rodney Ellis right here on Hello Houston, and we welcome you to the conversation at 713-440-8870. Alexander from Sugar Land is on the line. Alexander, what is your comment or question for Commissioner Ellis?
Hey, well, first, comment for the entire group. Love the show, love the new format, and thank you, Commissioner Ellis, for all the work that you've done. I've been a longtime Houston resident, born in Pasadena, so I'm very familiar with all the work you've been engaged in, so thank you. I just wanted to talk about the Braves Bayou Greenway Trail. I love that trail. I run the largest inline skating group in the city of Houston, and we skate streets all over the city. We have to share with cars, we have to share with bikes, and unfortunately, we don't have the greatest roads in the world. We know that. But the Braves trail is incredible, and I'm curious to understand, what's the next iteration of that trail? Are we going to see it connected to, the library loop and some other bigger trails? Will it take us to the airport? To your point, not everybody has access to a vehicle. Some people use scooters or skates or however they get it around the city, and I really would love to see the expansion of these beautiful trails because they're just outstanding and they connect our city from one part to the other.
Those trails are a good example of intergovernmental cooperation. The bayous are controlled by the county. Primary reason for them, the good Lord put them there to get the water out of here. City's responsibility is to get the water, drainage issues in your neighborhood to the bayous. County has stepped up. We have spent unprecedented resources on drainage on city streets, which we're not responsible for. With this battle going on over the toll road and other issues, it's going to be a real challenge. First, on that drainage area, because that's the real reason the bayous are there. Mm-hmm. But it is an amenity that we ought to use. I love Houston. I was born here. I've been here all my life. But it's a challenge.
And Commissioner Ellis, one of the big questions when we look to the county, we look at Harris County, are around toll roads and the funding. Talk to us about that.
Well, there's a bill in Austin that would take some of the money from the toll roads and give that to the city of Houston, about 30% of it. And the bill also designates where about 48% of the money that we distribute goes among the 4 precincts. It will put most of it in Commissioner Ramsey's precinct. Commissioner Ramsey, who's a dear friend, I had breakfast with him this morning. We don't agree all the time, but we're cordial to one another and develop quite a friendship. And I was making a point to him, the reason you have more county roads is because county commissioners gave you more money to build roads. But let me say this. It was visionary to set up a toll road system. That's what opened up a lot of land in this area so people could go out in distant areas and get in and out. We have what is considered one of the most efficient and effective toll road systems in the country. in the county. I'm not talking about the state toll roads. People have come in asking, will you just sell them to some group in Spain, which the state did quite a bit of. We have not done that.
Okay.
I think it's a mistake when the city has financial problems for the mayor to go back to our former colleagues in the legislature and ask them to get in the middle of battles here on the local level. I think it's being penny wise and dollar foolish. The city does not pay the full cost of us collecting their property taxes. The city does not pay the full freight for other services that the county provides. We're doing drainage projects in neighborhoods. Our job is to get the water from the bayous to the Gulf of Mexico. I doubt that if we had all of the drainage systems working in your neighborhoods, as an example, and we couldn't get it to the bayou, I don't think the city would say, let's help the county widen and deepen these bayous. It wouldn't happen. We don't charge the city its full rate for the joint processing center where we have an agreement. So the position I'm going to take if that bill passes, by the way, is, okay, you want to play that way? You know, you can disagree in the sandbox and throw a little sand, but when somebody pulls out a knife or a gun, you got to respond.
Well,
I think that's a mistake. You don't want to get the state into that, or to go for one of my colleagues. However the state would get in the business of dividing up the money, that's a big mistake, and you don't want to start down that road. It's a slippery slope. We all have financial troubles. Look, that'd be no World Cup coming to Houston if county leaders hadn't been visionary enough to go build a Astrodome and build NRG. The state makes the money. When FIFA comes, that's sales tax. The county gets the least. The city gets a little more than the county, not much more, but the county did that. So you have to think when there are consequences when you go to another unit of government to say, can you get in the middle of our discussions? If you want to sit down and talk about who does what, do it. But don't go bring in an outside party. That's breaking a knife into a sandbox.
We are talking with Harris County Commissioner right now, Rodney Ellis, and we're inviting your calls at 713-440-8870. On the line right now, we have Kenneth. Kenneth, what's on your mind?
Okay. I want to tell the commissioner. I'm from the same neighborhood you are. You know my brother and everything, and I probably would have. You know, everything you've done looked like something I would have done coming out of the same neighborhood. But my question is about these taxes. Now, you Republicans that sat across from y'all on the court seem to have been battling against it. And I like to hear your position, which justify this, because I'm about to file a property protest myself, because it's like it's no end to these taxes going up. Thank you.
You should file a property protest, but look, here's what the state did. They limit the increases in property tax revenue on the county side to 3.5% per year. If you go above 3.5%, you have to go to the voters. If you have two federally declared disasters, you can go up to 7% because you had two disasters and you go back down. Here's the problem with that, the impact of it. When inflation grows at a rate higher than 3.5%, the county cannot afford to provide the level of services from the previous year. People are still coming in. Everything goes up. 3.5% on existing properties. Since the Democrats have been in charge, we have reduced the rate. When your value of your property goes up, we don't make that decision. We can only take 3.5% of that money because of this cap. But we have reduced taxes each time we've been in control. Republicans, over 20 years they were in control, reduced the rate one time. But look, people are coming. And federal sources are drying up. You're going to have a heck of a hole on the city and the county because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. State had a $24 billion surplus from sales taxes. They're going to give $1 billion, I guess, in vouchers. What are they doing with the rest of it? You know, we're in an urban area. As much as it hurts me to say it to you, it costs money. You know, you grew up in my neighborhood. Old Hoxie Perry used to say, everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to pray. You got to spend money to do it. On that previous question, the question about the Braze trails over there, if that state bill passes, Parks by Houston was in talking to me yesterday. If they're going to reduce the money that I have for transportation, call the city. I just don't have it to go and do it. It won't happen.
Let's talk about flooding. There's a bill now that wants to give more control, Harris County Flood Control District, to more counties and more areas. How do you feel about that?
It would break the trust, the bond that we have with the voters in Harris County. I don't think it'll pass. If it does, you know what I'm going to say? Thank you, buddy. It's yours. The $2.5 billion that was put on the ballot, it was visionary. Should have been the damage. Really, it cost us about $10 billion, according to a Kinder study, that we would need. You know, I'm sure the good Lord didn't plan for 5 million of us to be here at sea level, but we're here, and people are still coming. You got to address it. If we want to go do tunnels, the likelihood of federal money coming looks like the state's not going to help us. But look, there's no way you'd ever pass another bond issue if you expected the voters of Harris County to put up $2.5 billion of that money, even if it was not enough to solve their problems. And then you're going to say you're going to bring in other counties? You know, it's an old line, old Reverend Jesse Jackson I got from him one time. He said, let the money come from where the money went. They're not going to take it. So I think that's all talk. Somebody's having a little fun. But if they're crazy enough to do it, the colleagues that I serve would have more sense than to do that. They don't want that headache. Because then take some of your $24 billion on the state level, and you saw, look, it would be hard for Texas to be as great as it is without this crown jewel, Houston and Harris County.
And
Amen.
Thank you,
And
Commissioner.
Rodney Ellis is the County Commissioner for Harris County Precinct 1. Commissioner Ellis, thanks so much for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you.